What's good? Welcome back to another episode of I said I would be more consistent about these, and then I wasn't. It's been like, I think 7 months since the last time I did one of these, which is like, I guess 6 months more or longer than what I wanted it to be. But yeah, here I am recording another one. So yeah, I get comments here and there on some of these, and it's like, oh, it's nice. So, um, yeah, now that it's a new year, I want to hunker down. Kind of use this as the threshold from which I, actually concentrate on stuff. Before I had said that I started working, and then because I started working, I'd be able to be more consistent because now I have a schedule. And since then, I've just been nothing but lazier. So, um, yeah, hopefully, if I really hunker down and concentrate on fewer things, I can actually like get those done and actually put things out there. I think a big problem of mine was that I had too many projects kind of going on at once. Right, I was trying to do that music thing. I was trying to do art itself. I was trying to do animation. Um, Too many things, and as a result, I couldn't concentrate on a single one and really get anything out there. So um, now I want to concentrate on just on animation, like specifically 3D stuff, so to I can get more out basically. So right now I'm just building models for that, and learning kind of the pipeline I want to do. And once I figure that out, like the animation is gonna be pretty fast. So yeah. And then working on Drevtam stuff, such as this, I need to finalize a few little character designs here and there, and tighten up, I guess, the beginning of the story, and then I can start putting that out there. I also need to figure out where to put it. I know there's options out there, like Tapas or something like that. I'll figure that out, though. Um, and then me and my friends want to make a game. So yeah, if that ends up being my it's like a it's like a romance visual novel, hope probably really poorly acted, uh live action kind of stuff. So yeah, if that ends up being my face reveal, then so be it. But yeah, that should be really fun, and they're interested in doing it. So um yeah, but right now, this episode is going to be talking about that secret, super advanced civilization in the center of the Earth I kept mentioning. Um, Now I do have a name for them, at least a tentative name for this. It is the Koraudov, or Koraudov. And here's kind of the phonetic kind of spelling of it up at the top, followed by what it is in Drev. So this is the Drev language. So uh, K Yo R D, and then you can either conjoin these two uh, sounds. So it's like the line is the O, and then the little two looking symbol is the V. Or you can separate that out and use a placeholder for no sound. Yeah, and then these are like proper nouns, right? It's like a name of something, and in that language, you can kind of break the rules. You can kind of put, you can kind of combine sounds in ways you would not normally see, because yeah, names are very, I guess, societally decided. So it's not, the function of the name's not like vital to the structure of the language in terms of what it needs to do for the universe. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm also really hesitant to put out proper like sentence structures for it, just because it might, making a language is hard, and there's probably going to end up being a lot of complications that come from that, that I simply can't foresee at the moment. So yeah, for now, this is the name. That's all you really need to know. Gonna talk about the structure of them, what they do, what's their purpose, stakeholders, I guess. So, as I previously mentioned, when I drew the diagram showing the moon and then the Earth, right? There's the people on the surface of the Earth, right? Which are just like, they're like you or me, right? They're just like schmucks, right? And they're same with that people on the moon, right? There's some folks on the moon that originally came from the people on Earth, and then underneath you have the inside the Earth you have the I'm just gonna abbreviate it with KY Kyo. Why not Kyo? Um, KYO, right? You have the Koraudov, right? So um, if we talk about the purpose of the universe itself to be an entertainment device for the level ones, and the level ones basically making quote unquote main characters, which are end up being entire civilizations, right? Like if you think of like an RTS, like a real time strategy game, right? You can have multiple people, you can have multiple players playing different civilizations or different factions on the same map. It's kind of like that, except on the scale of a universe. So they're one of them. And each faction or each group or stakeholder, whatever you want to call them, players in this universal game, they have different means at which they are able to interact with the level ones and the Drevtam field itself. So initially, and relating back once again, so you have the different levels, right? Where you have like I'm just gonna do like the first couple, right? Levels 1, 2, 3, right? Level ones, you can't really, they're like the gods essentially. You can't really interpret them. They're outside of our realm of interpretation. And then you have the level twos, which facilitate and help the level ones communicate with all the levels below, right? And this is kind of where the mechanics of the Koraudov come in, right? So within the Koraudov, you have like this guy, right? Or it could be a gal, it don't matter. This person, right? This is the host. And I have smoothing on, so I'm going to mess up writing a lot. So this is the host. The host's primary purpose is to be able, like the host is a level 3, essentially. Or level 4, depending. That gets complicated. For now, let's say they're level 3. The host is the kind of point person to be able, or the point person to facilitate communications for Koraudov and level 2, right? So KYO, KYO has a host who communicates. This is getting complicated, but yeah, the Koraudov have have a host which communicates and allows them to communicate with level 2 so they can get information and resources and whatnot for the universe itself. When the Koraudov was initially founded, they picked the level 1s via level 2s, picked an initial host, and then from there, using that host, they gave them information on how to use the Drevtam field, interact with it, and then therefore create all the technologies that they use today, or in present time. Not that, these are just in real life, right? That's a weird terminology for it. So yeah, that's the primary purpose of a host. Now, in terms of the story itself, hosts are very complicated. They are very rare, and they are never born within the Korodovyan society itself, right? So what happens in the current point of the story is that, within the timeline, and maybe you saw this or recall it, hopefully I talked about it, at some point within the timeline, I think I literally wrote current host dies, or previous host dies, host, can you tell I can write well? Host dies, right? And then there's this interim period in which they don't have a host because they're trying to find a host. They have to find hosts by looking at the people on the surface of the earth and by just like monitoring and scanning people, they have to find these like really really complicated specific markers in both genetics, life circumstance, timeline. Like it's so complicated. I didn't bother figuring it out. Right. They're constantly looking for the people on the surface of Earth, which is also another reason why they kind of keep them around, right? It's kind of like, why would this society care about keeping normal people around if they can just kill them at any moment? Well, it's because they have to use this surface as somewhat of like a breeding ground to hopefully make a new host or multiple hosts, which has never happened. But in this interim period in which there's no host, there's no communication, right? Like here's a Wi-Fi symbol, right? Like none of that, right? They have no person to be able to communicate with level 2s, and therefore they're like unable to like really advance or like learn about things that might happen or get commands or anything like that. So the presence of a host is super important for them. But likewise, once again, the host is like a very very like complicated thing to not only find but also introduce to society. So there is a point in which they find new hosts, right, within the timeline. I need to turn smoothing off. Wow. New host. And then they basically, in secrecy monitor this person until they get to a point where they can introduce this person into society. And there's a bunch of stuff written for that too. It involves some pretty metaphysical actions on the part of the host, but also of the Koraudov. And there's also a support system for the host itself, because it is ultimately a pretty shit job. But yeah, that's getting a bit too into the weeds for it. So the Koraudov also extends beyond Earth. They control what I mean. In my head, I've been calling it a sector, right? So like if you have, I had previously mentioned throughout the galaxy, and that's true. And I'm willing to extend that to galaxies, plural, right? So you have the Milky Way, right? Milk, sure, I'll just call it milk. And then you have all the other galaxies that kind of surround it, right? And the humans basically control, and I'm just drawing arbitrarily, this isn't an exact map, to control like a sector of these galaxies. And from the mechanisms of the universe and level 1s, they are not to expand. Partially because it would be difficult to expand, but expanding, in space politics wouldn't look too good, and they give them more enemies. And their bottom line is just ensure the survival of the human race, not necessarily the expansion or the spread of the human race, but the survival of it. And expanding or doing things like having like warmongering actions put that in jeopardy, which is why that doesn't happen. Wow, out of context, this looks weird. It just says milk. But so they're super advanced. They're able to get like materials and ships from inside the Earth to outside the Earth to without being seen by the people on the surface of the Earth. At some point in the timeline, they do make themselves known, and that usually, or not usually, but that will come with the coming of the new host. Stories for this are probably going to be really, really way down the line. And by stories for this, I am referring to stories for the Koraudov itself. Just because there's just because that gets really, really into the weeds of like mechanics of the planet. Also, another really important part of the Koraudov timeline is what was essentially an almost civil war turned into a separation. During this period, or perhaps even during a period of there not being a host and therefore lack of communication, there became two factions within the group. One believing that they should reveal themselves to the people on the surface of the earth because they're able to, you know, and they could basically turn into a utopian state, or a utopian planet, right? Like, they have the technology to like cure most of the diseases, you know, food for everyone, blah 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 blah. And then there was another faction that really disagreed about that. They thought that they wanted to stick to the initial commands of the level ones, and yeah, stick to the initial commands of the level one, thinking that they need to let the surface of the earth progress naturally because that gives us them the best chance to find a new host. So you have, I'm just gonna, separatists, I guess. I don't know, union, sure. I don't really have names for these. And once again, their bottom line is survival. And a civil war does not bode well for survival. So instead, they decided to effectively separate. The Union would stay in the center of the Earth, right? Stay in center of Earth as their headquarters. Stay in center. I'm sure this is legible and easy to see. Stay in the center, and as well as keep control of the sector. Gosh. Keep control of sector. And the separatists, effectively, they formed their own little coalition. So, formed in groups, and then set out and were essentially colonization pods or colonization ships. Flew away in ships. Within their little in groups, they of like shared ideals and such, they got into their colonization ships and set out into the far reaches of the universe. And they this was really early on, so like, you know, whatever the political status of the universe also mattered at the time, but they would set out to uncolonized, unclaimed planets in various galaxies to establish basically their own civilizations. And this is where it comes in. Some succeeded and some failed, to varying degrees. Some suck, some fail. And this is another element of potential expandable storylines. Like, we can concentrate on some of these colonized planets that are remnants of the Koraudov and explore the various ways in which they developed or failed to develop. And then as well, later on in the storyline, or at least in more present storylines, with the arrival of the new host and new existential threats to the human race, there was an effort to try to reconnect with some of these civilizations. Reasoning for that is loose at the moment, but it is something I want to do. It could even be like a super meta, like, reason why we're exploring this planet, right? Why are we concentrating on this planet? Oh, it's because the Koraudov figured out they're there. And then we're like, okay, let's view them a little bit, and then, you know, we look into the stories on that planet and such. But first we need to get material out for Earth, because there's a lot there, and it's the most relatable, right? So yeah, once again, hope any of that made sense. I say this now, and my God, do I hope it's true. I do want to get more of these out, and more consistently. New year, new me, I guess, right? Also want to get back into streaming some stuff. I have no idea what or when, for that matter. I think a goal is to grow a little bit more on auxiliary. Oh, sorry. I think a goal of mine is to grow a little bit, like via animations on auxiliary social media, so that like, when I point to the stream, it's not so barren. Um, it's nice having low viewers, but at the same time, it's nice having like low viewers because you can like actually like talk to all of them, or at least all the ones who get into chat. But um, at the same time, it's fun to have people look at your stuff. So yeah, until next time, follow my stuff, I guess. I wish I could say I'll be posting stuff there, but I don't know when that'll be. Anyways, yeah, bye.